Hi guys, my name's Alan Barratt and I'm the co-founder and CEO of Grenade, and you're listening to the first episode of our brand new podcast, Pull the Pin. Now, I've done lots of these podcasts before, so we thought it'd be a good idea to try and do our own. What could possibly go wrong? Now, the team aren't mad enough to let me do this all by myself, so we've actually roped in some I would say some responsible adults, but we haven't managed to do that. So we've actually got our guest presenter, Irish DJ and Grenade ambassador, Marty Guilfoyle.
Alan, thanks for having me.
You're welcome. And also we've got, it says my good friend Lee Wilcox, which is that's just bollocks. That's not true at all. But Lee's CEO of social media community on the tools. I've been told I can't say on the tools. I'm going to say it anyway, just to annoy him. But it's now called Electric House. Hello, Lee.
Hello. Yeah, I agree. The whole friend thing. When people say, you're friends with Alan, I'm like, I know him. Yes. We just know each other.
Yeah,
that's how we do it.
It ends there.
Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Yeah. So the idea of the podcast is we're going to talk about all things entrepreneurial. This one, we've got the backstory of Grenade. If you're interested in business or brand, fairly bad jokes, offensive language, and just our take on the world, then you're in the right place. So, let's make a start.
The imaginations run wild.
Lovely chair.
I'm not quite sure I've grown up yet, to be honest.
The irony of the whole thing here is that I'm a radio DJ and I have a business degree.
So, like every shop in the local area is trying to sue me for loss of footfall for like 15 grand each.
Yeah. Go bankrupt in style.
Was amazing because it's just so different from anywhere else I've travelled.
I apologise to the fans. You'd not like to get a sensible answer from either of us.
This is where we go.
Off you go.
We begin. Alan, we're going to start off with you. Tell me a bit about Alan as a teenager growing up and where it all began. At the point that you said, I want to own my own business.
I'm not quite sure I've grown up yet, to be honest.
You're definitely not a teenager.
If I ever grow up, you'll be the first to know. Okay, so my dad always had his own business. And I guess I was never going to go into that business because he was a heavy goods vehicle mechanic, so I wasn't really interested in that. I'm not very practical at all. And I don't really want to know how things work mechanical. I just want them to work. So I was never going to do that. And it was very long hours and a dirty job for very low pay. And I don't think as well he particularly enjoyed it. He did it because he was good at it, but he'd never really enjoyed it. So I was always interested in health and fitness and weight training and stuff from an early age. So I was always going to probably gravitate towards something along the lines of health and fitness. I originally thought about being a physiotherapist or something, but frankly, I'm not clever enough. So I couldn't do that. But yeah, I went to a gym on work experience when I was 14 and I just got hooked with going to the gym.
Because 14, is it not, do you have to be 16 to join a gym, no? Or is that just an Irish thing?
I don't know, maybe are there laws against that in Ireland? Can you not go to a gym?
I think it's against an Irish, but you probably looked older than 16,
did you? Irish, if it should be an Irish law if it's not an Irish law. But no, so yeah, probably I think it was probably a bit of a grey area because I guess... Mm-hmm. Maybe back then, what was that, early 90s? Probably people under the age of 16 weren't going to be interested in going to a gym, or it wasn't really a thing. But all of my kind of heroes, and I was a teenager, were like Van Damme and Schwarzenegger and Dolph Lundgren, and I was really skinny, so they were all a lot better looking and better built than me. So I thought I'd go and do something about it. So I went to this gym at 14 years old on work experience. I trained a bit at home, didn't really know what I was doing. I was just under 11 stone when I first went to the gym. And these guys took me under their wing and I did 3 weeks at work experience and I just loved it. And then they gave me free membership for a year, probably illegally, to your last point.
I'm not trying to get anybody in trouble here.
Probably a claim in there somewhere. Can we make a retrospective claim 20 years later? Yeah, we'll make a note. We'll sue them, make a note of that. And it's actually closed now anyway, so we can't. But yeah, I went and I just loved it. And then I was hooked and going to the gym. And then I ended up dropping out of my education and dropping out of A-levels to go and work in that gym on minimum wage, which I just loved. And everyone said I was mad.
No, but if you were doing something that you loved, why not? Absolutely, yeah.
And I was learning. So I've talked a lot about this probably on podcasts in the sense that I was education as such, formal education wasn't really for me, but I do like learning. But I like learning things that I want to learn. And I think this whole health and fitness industry with, I call them spit and sawdust gyms because they were kind of really down and dirty,
rusty,
kind of really dingy gyms, not the health clubs that we have today. And I think, that they were the gyms that you went to if you went to join a gym, maybe kind of a council-run leisure centre or something like that. But yeah, all the gyms we know today weren't around. So it was just a very different environment, and you get I mean, certainly the gym I was at, a real mix of criminals and just normal people, and just there were a few kind of entrepreneurs and business owners and millionaires and stuff. So real probably odd mix of people, but it just gelled together. So they were just really fun times.
Yeah, it's interesting for me because when I was a teenager and I joined a gym, and it was something that I really enjoyed doing, it put me in a good mindset and stuff. But like, I can't figure out what point when you were a teenager in the gym that you went, right, Grenade.
Yes,
do you know what I mean? Like, I've never had one of those moments in the gym where I'm lifting a dumbbell and I go, like, let's start a nutritional company, or like.
Yeah, so there was a bit of a gap with that, I guess, in the sense that I loved it and I was learning, and I think I started to do these, and I go to the gym and do this sort of stuff because no one else was doing it, and I've always been interested in doing what other people aren't doing. I wasn't interested in rugby and cricket and football and all that type of stuff because it was kind of very mainstream. So I've always tried to do things where other people aren't. I think it's part of probably being an entrepreneur. And I was actually, still am, quite a poor eater. I've never really got much of an appetite. The guys will all laugh because they'll say that they always see me eating, but eating and nutrition I always found quite difficult when I first started training. So I was really interested in supplements, and supplements then weren't really a thing. There were a few, again, this is early 90s, and there were a few supplement brands out there, and I just liked the idea of convenience of just kind of having a powder and mixing it up and drinking protein, rather than eating chicken and eggs and stuff. I just found it easier. So I was interested in early supplement brands and nutrition, and then when I went to work for this gym, which was Lakeside Fitness Centre in Kings Norton in Birmingham, next door to there were a company called BioCare, and they manufactured supplements, and I was interested in supplements, and I got chatting with the guy that owned it one day, and he made us a whey protein, and he made us early supplements, back then in whatever it was, 1994, something like that. And I ended up setting up a distribution business for those supplements in the UK, and also importing American-made sports nutrition over from the US, things like EAS, Metrox, ProLab, those type of brands, and selling it, distributing it in the UK. And that was where the supplement business came from. And then I ended up being, a middleman for American brands in between them and these gyms I mentioned earlier. And then we did well at the business, and that's when I met my wife in 2004 with this business called Fusion, and we kind of fell out of love with it. We were always getting squeezed from both ends, and we could see a lot of good product that was badly marketed, and I think and worse than that, we could see a lot of bad product that was well marketed, and both of which were a bit scary. And a lot of the stuff was probably unnecessary. A lot of supplements that were out there, we just thought we'd perhaps focus on the basics. And my background then at that point was weight management and product formulation stuff, and I'd always had a keen interest in that. So we came up with a weight loss formula this would have been in 2006, and knew we had a good formula, but we didn't want to just stick it in some generic white tub and put it on a shelf with everything else. And I knew from working in gyms at that point that a lot of the other weight loss products had all got very complicated and scientific sounding names that people couldn't remember. So I actually gave some of these capsules to a friend of mine who was training for the military at that time, and he was doing like a special forces selection, and I gave him some capsules, and I said, let me know what you think of those, and he fed back, and he said it was like I'd swallowed a grenade. So I thought, okay, what a brilliant name. So looked into this name, and we managed to protect the name in the UK. So we started actually protecting the name and the IP from 2006 until 2010, and we didn't actually launch the brand until 2010. And because it wasn't just a matter of getting the name, we also wanted to get the bottle to look like a grenade. So we've actually got this sort of stuff basically.
That's my first memory of Grenade anyway. Yeah.
Well,
sure.
I mean, this is still probably the top selling weight loss product
really?
in the UK. So we've sold this to about 135 countries. Lost count of how many capsules, but hundreds of millions. So, and it still does extremely well. And that was the first product. And to be honest, that was the only product we ever wanted. We wanted to be the Red Bull of sports nutrition. We thought we'll have one product that is everywhere, that everyone knows, and the product will be the brand, and it's totally protectable and no one can copy it. And and that's all we'll need. And that lasted for about 2 years. So we did that for 2 years and nothing else. And the product became so popular, we started to get asked for more products, which we then subsequently did. So we did a pre-workout called 50 Caliber. And then we kind of focused on specialised sports nutrition, and the problem with that being then that all the places that we could get these products like GNCs and Holland and Barrett and Amazon and Tesco Nutricentre, we quickly got, and we became the top seller. But then there was nowhere else to go, because you're never going to go into a petrol station or a convenience store and buy a 50, 60 pound weight loss product that's probably sold with some assistance. So we decided then to take some of the technology and what we'd learned, and staying true to our let's be the Red Bull of sports nutrition idea, and actually condense the technology really into like a protein bar, so high protein, low sugar. Most important, got that Grenade name on that people had come to love and trust, and they remembered. But then a product that's £2.50 you can put everywhere. So we started to put them into petrol stations, and at the time there were 60 GNC stores, and I think there's 10,000 petrol stations. So all of a sudden then in 2015 we had all this white space ahead of us, which we'd never really had before with sports nutrition, because like I said, we'd run out of places to go. And the brand was growing, and it's still growing, and it's a really important part of our heritage, and it gives us the authority and the authenticity to go and do other things. But certainly now, we've really now become a protein bar business, like more of a functional food brand. And, you know, we're disrupting the confectionery industry.
We'll get to you in a second regarding where it all began.
We have asked you for a reason.
No, it's interesting, isn't it? I love the fact that the name came from...
Where the name came from.
Yeah, I love that. I love it. So interesting.
Something that really interests me, though, is the transition, say, like you said, from the weight loss product into the other products. Because even when I would use the whey protein powder now at home, people are like, oh, Grenade do whey as well, you know? And back when I first learned about Grenade, back like you said, all those years ago, I associated it with the capsules, you know? Was that transition hard to kind of get people on board with the newer products?
Yeah, really hard, actually. I think, and certainly, because we had to keep all of our existing partners happy who knew us as a sports nutrition business, and the existing consumers happy that loved everything we made, but then also find an entirely new audience and put these healthier snacks, you know, high protein, low sugar snacks, bars, then drinks in front of them, who didn't know us from a sports nutrition brand, or had found perhaps sports nutrition a bit off-putting in a way, because it was a bit scary and they didn't understand it. And I mean, you know, one of the comments I used to get a lot was, oh, I'd love to take your stuff, but I'm not in the military. And people just thought that we only work with the military, which we still do, but we kind of got a bit pigeonholed in it. So now we've almost got two different businesses, but one brand, if that makes sense. So we've got our sports nutrition side, which is, you know, very edgy product for military and professional athletes and, you know, everyday gym goers, you know, and athletes up to Olympic standard, because it's covered, most of it's covered under informed sport. And then on the other hand, then we've got probably people, maybe 50, 60, 70% of which maybe don't even train, but they're, you know, walking through an airport and they're hungry and they want something that's better for them, and they don't want a chocolate bar, or they don't want a sandwich or a pasty, and they're actually grabbing a protein bar and they're having something that's a couple hundred calories. It tastes nice. It's like eating a chocolate bar, but it's not like having all the saturated fat, sugar and calories. And there's those people.
That's me. And that's how I know the brand, you know. So mine wasn't from the sports nutrition. It was from the bars. It was from, like, it's interesting because that's exactly how I know the brand. I don't know the brand from the Grenade shaped.
And to that point, we could definitely tell you don't train.
Yeah, exactly.
That was fairly obvious the minute you walked in. It's actually worth pointing out, Leah's already let us down. Bearing in mind he is the CEO of On The Tools, because earlier we needed an adjustable spanner. And he wasn't here. Actually, I have to use a huge wrench, so you've already let us down. Thanks for that.
I've got baggy hoodie on, so that you just, you know, I train.
Well, I thought you'd come around just with loads of just a tool belt on all the time. In case anyone needed spirit level or a hammer. They're the only two things I actually know how to use. If a hammer doesn't solve it, then I'm the wrong man for
When
the job.
you mentioned earlier on, you were like, I don't like that. To understand how things are built, I just like them to work. That's me. Like. But I own a company called On The Tools, and if you stick a hammer or a drill in my hand, oblivious.
Yeah, that's not hard to believe.
On The Tools really interests me because I only learned about you yesterday. So this is why I'm really excited to talk to you. We heard about Alan, you know, when a teenager joined the gym. That's where it all started for him. Where did it all start for you, Lee?
Drunk. Yeah, so it was Friday night.
Are you drunk now?
No, I'm not drunk now.
It's actually the same thing in England as it was in Ireland, yeah?
Yeah. So me and Adam... And so Ad was in the trade. He was in there, you know, he was in the trade for 12 years. So we were getting drunk Friday night in my garden 5 years ago. We've been old school friends, known him since we were like 9 or something like that. go on family holidays with each other and stuff. But he was moaning about the fact he couldn't find a plasterer on the job he had, and I was just adamant that there's got to be something out there that would allow contractors and subcontractors to connect with each other. And you had things like check a trade, rated people, but it was all B2C vetted tradespeople in your house. It wasn't contractor, subcontractor on site. And what we quickly realised was that it's just, you go through your phone book, or you go to an agency, and the agencies didn't have a good rep. It was like everyone felt like we're getting stole off, whether it be the tradie in getting a couple of quid lost off his head, or whether you were the contractor and paying more for someone that you didn't know whether they were going to turn up or whatever. And he was at the point where he would just have, you got site foreman breathing down your neck saying, this needs doing. He's like, he said, I've took people on, and he said, honest, they've turned up on the morning with the tools in like a white plastic, like a Morrison's bag. He said, and I'm looking at him thinking like,
maybe they bought them from Morrison's.
Yeah, like this guy is not going to be able to do this job, but they're going to look like they're doing the job. I'm going to put them on the job because I need a body in that room. And he said it gets to the point where you know that you're not being as productive as what it could be. So we got drunk anyway and came up with this idea just to build an app that would allow people to connect. That was it. But we were broke. Like we had like no money whatsoever. I was like divorced, living back at my parents in like ridiculous amounts of debt. And Ad was on the tools, he was grafting weekends, he was working away in Glasgow, in London. So we just rinsed out 3 credit cards to try and get this thing built, and realised we had no money for marketing. So we were like, well, Ad had the bright idea of it was around about the time where you had like these publishers on social, like Lad Bible, Unilad, that were popping with these like short form viral videos that were getting quite a lot of high growth through, it's like You've Been Framed style-esque content. And he was like, we've got loads of videos that we share on site. He had like 4.
But they were really good 4.
Yeah, really good 4. Yeah. So I spent a couple of weeks just looking through YouTube, social, and like ripping videos and reposting. And then after that, we just landed on something that, like a niche of people, just a big one, that had no place across
so niche. When I heard about this for the first time yesterday, I was like, wow.
Just had that people wanted that 5 minutes of fame. So after those first 2 weeks, people were just sending content in because they just wanted to be featured on the page. That was it. And then we were like, if we can get 100,000 people within 12 months, we'll launch it, we'll be rich. It was like such a basic shit business plan, but that was the thought process on it. And then after 3 months, we had like 250,000 people. We were growing at 50,000 people a month. And and now it's grown into something that really we're the voice of the industry. And, we're trying to change how, what access they have and who's supporting them. They're a lost industry. They're a lost group of people in terms of the access they have to things, pensions, tool theft, insurance. There's so many things that they don't get. And we've now got that voice where we can work with brands, we can create content, we can try and solve problems. That's sort of what we try and do.
You touched on something there that's so interesting, for somebody who wants to become an entrepreneur like yourselves, and you literally were just so blunt and so honest. You were like, I was broke. I had no money. At that point, you kind of go, this is like, I'm so out of my depth here. Or is that kind of like a thing that kind of drives you to really go and do it?
Yeah, like I remember having the
so scary, isn't it?
Yeah, bear in mind. So I've had this life where I've like gone to uni, dropped out of there because it was just thick, and then didn't really know why I'd gone there in the first place, and then went back in my bag and was like, I'm going to get kicked out, like go back to my parents, and then I get married, I move out, I have a family, and then I go back to square one again. I'm at my mum and dad's, and I'm like borderline bankrupt, and I'm like, what do I do?
Yeah.
But I've got this idea where I go, well, I can either go bankrupt or I can have one last slug at this and go bankrupt, like fighting with it.
Yeah. Go bankrupt in style.
Yeah.
I noticed there was, when you said about being thick, we didn't challenge you on
no
that.
one
we just
challenged
accepted that to be that was a fact.
It is
we
a
accept
fact.
it as a fact.
The
We didn't say, no, you're not thick. It's
the irony of this whole thing is
the
irony of the whole thing here is that I'm a radio DJ and a club and festival DJ, and I have a business degree. That's the irony of this whole thing.
That is quite ironic.
Exactly. Yeah. And then I know there's the famous story with you, Alan, about how I think £27. Is that where you started?
So we started. We had £500. We had we had a loan from the UK trade investment for £500. It was called Passport to Export. The irony being that they'd lend you the money provided you could prove you'd already spent the money. So you had to have 500 quid to spend, and then they'd lend you £500. So it was a bit weird. But so you had to spend it, I think, on a show as well. So we did BodyPower as our first show. But yeah, we were quickly down to £27, and everyone says, you know, how do you run a business on that? But, you know, there were two of us. We were taking no salary, working from home. I'm sure you were as well, Lee. It's surprising what you can do with no money. And actually, I think it's better having no money and being creative and really having to think about how you can disrupt people who do have money. Because I think if you had got money to spend, you'd go and spend it. Therefore, you'd end up doing what everyone else was doing. So I think it makes you do something differently. And like you said, Lee, you know, what have you got to lose? So, you know, and at one point, okay, you know, we'd got a house and a mortgage and whatever. And, you know, Jules and I had a genuine conversation about, you know, if we lose the house, we lose the house. But, you know, at least we're together. We'll go and get a 1-bedroom bed sit somewhere and we'll go and do something else. So I think you've just, as long as you're really prepared for the worst thing that can go wrong and you do your best to protect the downside, you know, some of these things, you've just absolutely got to go for it. And you probably say the same as well, Lee. I'd rather regret something I've done that didn't work than regret not doing it.
And BodyPower, wow, definitely. What was the reaction?
So the thing is, so BodyPower comes up, and this is in May 2010. So we've launched the brand, and you know, it's people like it, but they're not necessarily buying it. People are quite skeptical. The initial feedback actually we got, bearing in mind this is quite a gimmicky industry, certainly sports nutrition, was they thought it was too gimmicky. So
as in with the whole like the tank and
we hadn't got the tank at that point. So this is just the Grenade bottle. They just found it quite gimmicky, and I think that consumers have been a bit spoiled maybe with the perception, perhaps again from back at the time in the 90s, some of the American brands, as I said, you know, very well marketed brands, not necessarily good product. And I think, you know, what we had here, we had good product, well marketed, which actually was quite unusual. So people, I think, wanted to hate it. They wanted to think it was a bad product in nice packaging and that people were just paying for the packaging and there was no substance to it. But actually we did a lot of sampling, and when people realised this was actually a really good product, it started to get a really good following. You know, there's no such thing as a magic pill, but certainly it helped, and it helps with all the things that we know people struggle with regard to dieting. So you're not gonna lose weight if you're just eating too much and not training, but people actually start to see the benefit of it. And then we decide we can do this fitness show, and there's two of us, and we spent £12 on 2 t-shirts. So it was Grenade olive green, which I still have. I've still got.
They're hanging up somewhere, are they?
If anyone's seen the image I posted yesterday on LinkedIn, I'll have them still. I'll probably still wear them. I don't like throwing away clothes, and I'm not known from a fashion sense, to be perfectly honest. Don't say anything, you. We had these like olive green Grenade t-shirts, which actually people loved. And at that point, we probably could have become a clothing brand because people just loved the clothing, but it wasn't our area of expertise. And we thought, you know, how can we stand out at this show? Because everyone's seen it all before. And you've got companies there who've just got money to burn, and they'll spend hundreds of thousands of pounds on their booths and staff and athletes. And there's Formula One racing cars in there. And, you know, how do you stand out? So we thought, well, a friend of mine's got a tank. I'll see if he'll lend it to us. So I rang up Nick and I said, can we borrow your tank? Because it's fine. So
what a phone call. Can I borrow your tank?
Well, I thought it was actually going to be quite a difficult phone call. And when I said, oh, can we borrow your tank? It's like, how many do you want?
Shaking, picking up the phone.
So I was like, oh, lovely, we'll have 3. And
because if somebody rang me looking to borrow my car, I'd be like, no, like, let alone a tank, like,
and we got it delivered into the NEC for like 400 quid delivered on the back of a low loader. It was dirt cheap. And so we go in and like we drive this tank into the NEC, and we set all the smoke alarms off because it was billowing smoke, because everyone knew we'd arrived.
Which is good.
And then people were like, "You've seen this guy's over there, got a frigging tank parked in the corner." So, and I think we were just, you know, we got a great product and we're having fun, and we got cut through. And at that particular show, there were some Americans that come over this show, and one of these guys happened to know the buyer for GNC in the US, and he emailed him a picture, and this guy got in touch, and he said, you know, I'm the buyer for 3,300 fitness stores, you know, in the US. I've seen 120 products a week. Yours stood out. Shall we talk?
What's it like getting that email?
Well, it was amazing. But then we're thinking,
is that the moment where you're like, this is it? Like, we're really going somewhere.
I think we always thought we'd got something in it. I think we always had that belief. And I don't know if you must have had this, Lee. it's hard. You just believe in it so much. No matter how many people tell you it's a terrible idea, which they do, family and friends. Oh, why are you doing that? Including my own dad said, oh, you were wasting your life and go and get a proper job and stuff. So, but I think you just have this fervent belief that you're doing the right thing, and it's really hard to explain as an entrepreneur. You just get this gut feeling, and you just think, we're going to make this work. So, there were two of us, and all of a sudden you've got these Americans, and it sounds great. It was a great email, but again, we've still got no money, we've got no premises, we've got no staff, we've got no American products, we've got no
really good email.
distribution. We've got a great email, from Bob and Ilian, who's since left. But it actually took us a year then to make American product, and we had to go and then start doing the proper business steps of distribution and learning how to make stuff and ship stuff. And where there's two of you, and again, I'm sure you've done this as well, Lee, where you have to learn. There's two of you, divide and conquer, and you just split the responsibilities.
You've done every role, and that's the thing, isn't it? And then you get to the point where you have to hand bits of it over, and then you keep holding it for a bit longer. Actually, I quite like doing this bit, and you get good at it or whatever. And that's the growth bit, isn't it? Where you've done every bit.
You're good at something.
Yeah.
So we need a tumbleweed emoji.
I'd say what I'm good at. I'm good at
starting
starting things for about a week or two, and then I'm good at getting rid of it and letting someone who's actually got the capabilities of passing it over.
That, Lee, is a fantastic skill. The art of delegation.
Yeah, I used to be shit at it as well. But
now, I remember you said this before. You said you actually weren't very good at delegation, but I think entrepreneurs are quite good at finding things to do where there isn't necessarily something to do and making it a job that someone else can do. And I think the art of actually identifying something needs to be done, learning what needs to be done, handing it over to someone who'd be better at doing it, frankly, is a real skill, and that's actually quite rare with entrepreneurs. So that's a real pleasure.
I can see why that'd be tough though, to hand it over if you think you're capable of doing it yourself. Like, you've done so much yourself, to then have to hand over some of the responsibility. I can see why that would be difficult. Like,
I think it's the transition thing as well, from like going into. I've not been an entrepreneur or ran businesses from the point that that I left school. I've always had it in me. I've tried loads of stupid things. But
like what? What have you tried? Like, are you a hustler? Do you hustle?
I've had so many different jobs and tried so many so I've tried loads of different like clothing. Did you sell your
body down at the docks?
Yeah, I did do that.
Okay. Was that
one
unsuccessful?
Buyer. Yeah, no, it wasn't. Okay. I was cheap as well. But I've tried to do like clothing brands before, but even like I look back at these things and I go, why did I try and do it like that? Why don't I do it a different way? But it always comes back to this thing of being an entrepreneur, I think. So like, I had no car, didn't really have much money, so what I did at that point was I got someone to do the designs as a favour. Someone else I knew ran a printing company, so I got them done as like on tick. And then I got a bag and I got on the bus and I trawled Birmingham, like high street, sort of like independent fashion.
And when you say on tick, I'll translate for Marty. Marty's looking confused. Does that mean you didn't pay for it? So you got it on credit?
Yeah.
I was like, what?
I'll translate. Yeah. It's actually probably quite dangerous having someone who's very Brummy. Actually, two people are quite Brummy, you more than me, and actually someone who's very Irish.
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
It's funny because like anyone who meets me from outside of Ireland is surprised when I tell them I'm Irish. Honestly,
I don't believe that.
I swear to God,
they're being sarcastic.
This week I've gotten Australian and I've been asked I'm American. Genuinely, in the last 7 days.
I can understand Australian and American getting mixed up a bit,
but not Irish.
No,
I'm with you on that one. I don't know, like, but then again,
when
you hear people like
Alan
walking around doing his imitation of an Irish accent, I can see why they would mix.
Which is amazing.
Yeah,
wow. That's the second one. That's the second one. No,
we're done there. That's what we use
the first one we might edit out, so I think this is probably the first one, and I think I'll probably have one other. But to be fair, it's my podcast. I'll do it if I want.
Yeah,
what do you mean take it out?
When you do it, you sound like
you're not editing this, are you?
Oh, we might have to edit some of it out. I mean, let's face it, mostly edit out Lee.
Yeah.
Until he says something of interest.
We're still waiting for that.
Well, yeah, that's probably not going to happen. But if we get anything, if he says anything interesting, great. But if not, we'll just pretend he's not here. What we'll do is I've got like a teddy bear upstairs. We'll put that here, like a cardboard cut out or something.
Honest to God, even though we've spent come over here, if that happens, I would love it. That I'll go to watch it and it's just a teddy bear.
It's just a cardboard cut out.
Earlier on, Alan was talking about how he just knew he had something that was gonna do well. He really felt like he had an idea, and I talked to so many people who are performers or music or like yourselves, entrepreneurs, and you get the cliche answer. It's like, did you ever think? At what point did you think this was gonna blow up? And they always say, 99% of them, oh, I never expected it. It just happened. Didn't expect that to happen. Would you be in that category, or was there a point where you kind of went, I definitely have something here?
I think you're waiting for it. So like, if you think about the idea you've got, or you want to try and run or whatever, then you've got this idea. you obviously believe in it, and then you're waiting for the point maybe as an inexperienced, like naively. I wouldn't now. I think early on I was probably like, oh, when I get to this point, that means I'm there. Like, but you get to that point, you're like, you didn't know shit. This means you just like 1% or like 0.5%.
Just further to go. Yeah.
I think the belief bit was interesting. So like, I agree with you on that, Alan. Like so like I had a bit where I was still working full time, coming home, operating the page, replying to people, doing all these things, but we're making no money. So Andy, our commercial director, always jokes. He's always like, likes don't pay the bills. Like they never have, they never will. And we got to like 500,000, something like that, and loads of people were asking for merch. So we were like, okay, there's a revenue model here. Maybe we can do
merchandise.
Merch. Yeah, sorry, merchandise.
Try and keep up. Try and keep up.
We didn't get them on tick this time though.
He paid for them.
We paid for them, but we set up we asked the audience to come up with like funny slogans for 6 main trades, like Sparky plumber. So Sparky's an
electrician.
Okay, gotcha. I'm following. I'm getting it.
It must be like doing this in just a completely foreign language.
Yeah.
I'm only here to learn. Like,
and then we went through the feed, picked the best designs, and set up a shop within like 2 days. We did 800 quid's worth of sales in the first week, and I just went in and quit my job. I was like, I've done it.
Okay.
And everyone was like, "You are mental! What is wrong with you? You're quitting a job to go and like sell T-shirts. Like." It's not even anything to do with what you're doing. Like, what is it? And I was like, don't know, but it's something.
And it just feels right.
Feels right. Sent out the first orders in like black bin liners from my mum's living room. The people who got those first orders must have just thought, what on earth is this?
What did I pay
probably
for?
Still are, to be honest.
Brown masking tape, black bin liners.
Who's packed this?
What was it?
You probably did like massive sales at Halloween, did you?
That's it. Yeah. People just reusing stuff. But yeah, and I just knew there was something there. And then that first month, we did 15 grand's worth of sales. And I was like this to everyone. Yeah. And then it went downhill a bit because after Christmas, January kicked in, and I was like, "What's happened?
What's going on?"
The bottoms fell out.
You sold a T-shirt to everyone who wanted one, and then you ran out of people. Yeah. I think though with that, I mean, the belief's an interesting one. I think with a brand, you never quite know what you've got. To be honest, I think a brand evolves and can be whatever you want it to be. And you're probably finding that certainly where, I know you've got some rebranding coming up you'll probably want to talk about, but I think certainly for us, I thought the whole weight loss thing would probably get bigger quicker. And I thought, this is going to go mad in America. Americans are going to love this and stuff. And it does do well in the States, but I think not as well as it thought. What I didn't think would happen was we'd end up launching a protein bar that would compete with the best-selling chocolate bars in the world.
Yeah, gotcha,
I didn't think that would happen. If someone had said, you'll be one of the top-selling chocolate bars. But again, it's still just part of the evolution of a brand. And I still think with Grenade, we're learning a lot all the time and evolving and adapting. And I don't think we quite know what we've got yet. And I think, maybe the thing that makes Grenade absolutely globally monumental, we haven't thought of yet and we haven't launched yet. And maybe that's the same, for you.
I love that. I love the fact that I think there's something in that. Like we always say that we're perfectly imperfect. Like we're not the best business. We're just a great group of people that have got this like bond of togetherness that go, actually, if we fail quick enough and then realise what we did wrong and then try and alter it quickly, then we'll probably go along the right way. But that imperfection is what makes us like really great. We're not precious over it. We do things in the most polished way? No. But that's not me. Like, you know.
Yeah. You've got to be, a brand's an extension of the founder, and certainly you've got to be you, and that certainly that you need that injection of personality into a brand. And I think there's a distinct lack of personality in the world today. But you said something actually really interesting there. There's your first one. Something interesting. It has happened. Something interesting in the sense that you said, you'll get it wrong and you'll learn. And I think it's worth touching on this because I know we've got some questions that we've been asked by listeners, and I get asked this quite a lot in terms of failure. People are really scared to start businesses, aren't they? And all the people that have said to you, "Why are you doing it? You're mad." They're probably scared for you, but they're scared for themselves because it's that leap into the unknown, and everyone likes the safety net of doing, having a job or doing that comfort
salary,
blanket. Which is absolutely fine. I'm not criticising that. Everyone likes that safety net. But I think if you want to try and do something truly remarkable that's different, you have certainly got to get out your comfort zone. Personally, I've never liked being in a comfort zone. Whenever my last business, my distribution business, did really well. When I got comfortable, I sold it.
Yeah. Because
it actually starts to get easy. You start to get complacent. You can't have complacency in business.
Bored as well.
It does get boring, and again, other people catch you up unless you are always, fear's a great thing. If you always are a little bit scared, that I think gives you that edge to keep pushing and working harder and disrupting yourself and learning and moving and evolving. Because certainly with fear and failure, failure is brilliant as long as it's fast.
Yeah.
Fast failure is great because you learn, so you get something from it. As you get bigger, I think failure gets slower and more expensive, and then it starts to get really painful. So certainly learn in the early days, and we're still very much learning, but you know, if you've learned something and it's cost you a tenner, it's better than learning and it costing you a million or whatever. I know it's all proportionate to what you got at the time. And certainly we've got 500 quid a tenner is a lot of money. But I think definitely worth saying about embracing failure and failing quickly. If you have a long drawn out failure, it's like death by 1,000 cuts. And that's terrible for a business.
And before we get to some of the questions that were sent in, some of them are magical, by the way. You talk about brand evolution, okay? And this is something that really interests me because as an entrepreneur, I can only imagine that you still want to maintain, you know, your personality within the brand, but then sometimes there has to be an element of compromise because you want to succeed and you want to make money and you want to grow. Has there been a time where you felt that you've had to kind of compromise to push the company in the right direction?
I don't think we've ever knowingly compromised the brand. Okay. I think, we've probably done it unknowingly and realised, just where we've perhaps done events that weren't quite right for us.
Okay, yeah.
And it doesn't really hurt you, but it's sometimes then you think you can have a great event, but you know, if it was particularly expensive or you know it wasn't as much fun as we thought, we didn't quite get the feedback we thought we'd get. Maybe we'd look back and say we wouldn't do that again. I think there's probably a time and a place, you know, for a personality within business. And I think if the personality of not just the founder, but the team, because it's all an extension of the same thing, you know, so if your team personality, let's say, if that's resonating well within products and at that moment in time and resonating well with consumers, that's brilliant. Why would you change it?
Yeah.
I think, you know, times change, and certainly perhaps brands that might have been popular in the 70s and 80s now wouldn't be popular because things have changed. It's a different world. So I think you have to keep current. I'd never want to change the personality of the brand just because it was fashionable at the time, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, what would you say to that, Lee?
Yeah, so I mean, ours is, I guess, like if I think about On the Tools, it's that evolution of I think we got it wrong for probably recently for like 12, 18 months. Hence, you know, I said I was going to come on to it, but hence the electric house move, because what ended up happening was that we had a brand that was built around trying to connect the construction industry, and that was its purpose, right?
I thought it was just people putting nails through their hands and people laughing about it.
That was like a sub movement of it. But so you have that on the front end of it, and then behind the scenes, we devolved into this B2B agency that no one knew existed. I remember Andy going to our commercial director went to a trade show. And I think we had about 16 people in the team at this point, and he gave someone his business card, and the guy, without saying anything, walked off, went to the back of the stand, came back with someone else, and they were both laughing their heads off. And they were like, we cannot believe that On the Tools has got a commercial director. We thought it was just some builder in his pants, right?
No way. Which it was. Sharing videos of cats falling into cement mixers.
Yeah. So, and
cat
we were
videos, though, I'm there, like, you know.
We'll look at that video, not knocking it.
What are we doing wrong with the brand in its positioning when, from a B2B perspective, people just don't understand what it was? There's real, like, positive sentiment in the consumer or the community feeling like it's being ran by a builder in his pants. I'm happy with that from a content perspective.
I don't think that's negative at all.
That's great.
Yeah.
But from a B2B bit, when you've got a commercial director standing in front of someone and they're laughing at him because he exists, I'm like, God, we've got that wrong. So we had to evolve On the Tools to make sure that it stayed as that community facing, and then actually launch Electric House as a positioned like agency above that. So now we've got Electric House, that is the social media and publishing agency that owns and operates the communities like On the Tools. And I think actually what that does then is that's going to allow On the Tools to grow as an entity within that and have its own mission to drive things forward. Yeah, because what's been happening is we've got, and it's shit really, because you go, oh, actually as a brand, this is what we're going to try and solve, right? But behind the scenes, we're an agency trying to make money with brands and create lots of content that makes money. And I'm like, we're not actually serving the purpose of what that brand is.
It's two different things.
No one's driving it. So that allows us now to reposition and do that.
And the irony as well is the amount of time I've sat in that chair in my pants. Exactly. I'm not actually allowed to go there. But yeah.
That is a tamer version of the conversation that happened off air.
I wasn't allowed to say a specific reference. I just said I sat in there in my pants. Didn't say what I was doing.
And the imaginations run wild.
It's a lovely chair. It's very comfy. I'm sliding around in it a bit, but it's.
We're going to get to some of the questions that came in right now, and I'm going to direct them towards both of you because the fact that these were selected amongst how many was it? About 600?
You had about 600 questions coming up. They're still coming in as well.
The fact that these are the ones that have been chosen just says a lot about the rest of the questions as well.
I apologise in advance. You'd not like to get a sensible answer from either of us, so I'm really sorry.
No, we're not expecting one. No, we're just expecting honesty. Okay,
always.
We're going to keep it serious for the first question, Alan. Okay, if you could have any celebrity endorse a Grenade brand, who would it be? And you're not allowed to say Lee.
That's definitely celebrity. I know I thought about this one earlier, and I still want to go. I want to go the Queen. I want to go the Queen because I think
it's so rude of me to laugh, like, isn't it? Because like I'm from Ireland.
No, I was told she's not a celebrity. That's just wrong. She is a celebrity.
Well, celebrity is what? It comes from the French word, which is well known. So there you go.
Oh, learning already. Didn't know that.
Was good,
didn't know that. Yeah. That's not true.
It is true. We'll Google it. My business degree was with French as well. So there you go. And as you can see, I'm using both my French degree.
So by definition, well the Queen is a celebrity. We all agree on that. Thank you very much.
There you go. By definition, you're a celebrity. Yeah.
Okay, so celebrity. And I think, if she kind of just rocked out onto the balcony at Buckingham Palace.
What product would she have in her hand?
Killa.
Okay.
Well, I made to think Carb Killa. I'd be over the moon if she was knocking back 50 cal.
Well, no, but she would be too then in about half an hour, wouldn't she?
Yeah, she'd knock back 50 cal and then just kind of casually just sort of flicked like a Carb Killa wrapper onto the balcony or just went, just might drop. I think, we've cracked it.
Really?
Cracked it.
And is this something that you actually think that you could make happen or?
Is that a challenge?
Well, it could be a challenge because we can go down the other route of ask you a question like regarding a celebrity that you actually think might happen, or if you feel that this is a challenge that you're willing to accept.
I'm getting a signal from Jenny. Jenny's about to make a phone. Have you got the Queen's number? Okay, perfect, lovely.
Jenny's like,
we're going to make that happen. So by this afternoon, the Queen will be necking 50 cal. How hard can that be? I think, so what about you? Who would you?
Yeah, I'm interested in this one.
Yeah, you know what? I've never thought about it. I guess within On the Tools, when you talk about it like that, I mean...
But you could always change it that you endorse a tool. You know what I mean? You use that expression in England as well?
What about the Rock using a power drill in an On the Tools t-shirt?
That would be pretty good.
Does the Rock do DIY?
I bet he does.
Yeah,
he does everything, doesn't he?
Yeah, probably.
Who would I... It's got to be some...
Arnold would be good for you.
Arnold would be great.
On the Tools.
Yeah.
On the Tools.
We actually... One of the early videos I always remember...
It's a terrible Arnold impression. I'm really sorry about that.
Someone doing an impression of him on site, and it was absolutely banger. And it did really well through the page.
I was going to say banger.
Banger, yeah.
I'm struggling to understand him as well, so you must be in a world...
In Ireland, we say banger for that, and we still wouldn't use that word.
Isn't banger actually a place?
A banger is a place, and it's also an explosive device.
Okay, yeah.
Do you guys have bangers over here?
Actually, can I change my answer?
Yeah.
I'll tell you, so I can't say Marty Guilfoyle is the person I'd like to promote Grenade. We've already got him. Should have said that first, shouldn't I? Really, sorry.
Yeah, you should have.
Bottom of the list. Sorry.
Yeah, I don't know. I'd like someone from an On the Tools perspective who'd fit with it well, like someone like Danny Dyer or someone like that. You know,
Danny Dyer.
He's just a geezer, and he'd relate well to the
you know
trade.
what? I'm with you on that. Yeah.
He's up for anything.
I tell you what,
so as an ambassador,
you've got more chance of getting Danny Dyer than we've got getting the Queen.
I completely agree.
Okay, we might be able to get Prince Harry. He'd probably be quite good. He might be able to talk her into it, or vice versa.
We'll allow that to be the plan B for the challenge.
All right. Okay. We're on it.
Question number 2, Lee. We'll start with you on this one. Okay. Would you rather fight a horse-sized duck or 100 duck-sized horses?
Sorry, a horse-sized duck.
One or 100 duck-sized horses. Now, you need to bear in mind that, their size is important to this question, but there is 100 of them.
Yeah, that's it. Totally, I'd go for the horse-sized duck because at the end of the day,
it's a big duck.
It's a big duck, and it's got big beak and everything, but it's going to move relatively slowly. I'll probably get it under its legs. And
we never thought about that actually earlier on. It's not going to have the strength of a horse, is it?
Well, it might have. No one's ever seen a duck that big.
I've never seen a duck kick somebody. You definitely want to don't get in the way of its wings and stuff. But 100 of them, 100, you're gone, aren't you? It's like...
I don't think we can assume that because it's big, it's weak. I think we'll probably find that because it's got to that size in the first place, clearly it's been taking something.
I thought you were going to say it's been having a Carb
Killa bar for
breakfast every day.
I mean, I'll tell you what then. So if that's some kind of weight training, geared up MMA duck,
maybe that should be
the
ambassador.
It's going to kick the shit out of you. I'll tell you what.
But 100 of them is just going to eat me alive,
you'd
aren't they?
it'd be like, they'd swarm you.
It's like World War Z, isn't it? Like, you're just like done. Like,
I agree. I'd go for the one big adversary.
I stand more chance. I know I'm probably going to lose both of them, but
But then, okay, you've ever gone down to like the pond to feed the ducks?
Yeah.
And have you been more afraid to do that or then get on a horse? Have you been on a horse before?
Well, they're not the size of horses when you go and feed the ducks.
No, but there's still 100 of them.
If I went down to the pond and there was loads of ducks the size of a horse, I wouldn't go down to that pond. I'd run.
I don't know. I just think 100.
Do you think we've spent enough on this question, bearing in mind everyone's now probably tuned out?
Yeah.
And unsubscribed.
We agree, though.
Tell you what, though, listeners, tell us, what would you rather do? I think we've gone for the giant duck.
I'm gone with the 100, though.
But if you disagree, tell us why.
Yeah, I think so.
Mental.
Like, you want 100?
Quicker.
We're carrying on. You want 100? It's being swarmed by 100.
How do you know they'd swarm
horses,
me, though?
the size
like,
imagine how fast they're going to be. Like,
yeah,
they're little and they've got 4 legs on that.
No, but then that contradicts what you're saying about the horse-sized duck being strong. You know the kind of way, like, you can't.
Yeah, but they're going to be fast. They've got 4 legs. They've still got the same teeth. If you get bit by a horse, you know about it. And there's 100 of them.
Oh yeah, they're probably quite nippy.
They'll be all over you. Imagine them. They'll like maul you.
Very nippy.
Oh.
Yeah, nippy. Yeah, the big duck. I'm with you.
We'll go back to business for this one.
Tell you what, we're going to sort the Queen thing out. Let's do it. Can we get a giant duck?
Yeah.
And get 100 miniature horses, and then we'll take on a big duck, and then Marty will put you in some kind of enclosure.
Okay.
And then we'll see who lasts the longest.
And I will do that when the Queen eats a Carb Killa bar.
There we go.
You have my word on that one, okay? Back to business. Al, how do you react to copycat competitors?
Oh, that's a very serious question now.
This is
we're now back.
That's why we're here.
We're back in the room. It used to really wind me up. And I think now, actually, it doesn't wind me up because it winds the team up. So I think I'm very often the one saying about, look, just let it go.
So, real quickly, so what would you define as a copycat competitor? What do they have to do to copycat, like to be a copycat of Grenade?
I mean, they can't copy the name or the brand, and I think that's really why it's important that we always do stuff that's just us, that we can get away with, that others don't. But I mean, they do copy a lot of our marketing in terms of the look and feel and flavors and names and colors and stuff. And in a way, I think I find it perhaps quite funny. The thing is, as well, to build, I think, a brand that's, doing something new and not been done before, you have to do something differently, which is definitely what we've both done. If then all of your competitors start doing what you're doing, all they're really doing is actually making us bigger.
Yeah.
Because they're putting more, because every consumer's looking at it going, well, you're just copying Grenade. So it actually makes us more credible that everyone's copying us. Mm-hmm. They'd actually be far better off going and doing something completely different, something that we're not doing. So yeah, it used to annoy me, but now it doesn't really. We now take it probably as a form of flattery, I think.
Yeah, of course. For yourself, Lee, in such a niche area, it's like, have you had experiences before?
What I like to do is I like to find who's done it. I put them in a field and I set 100.
Wait, so you have access to these animals?
No.
That's an easy question for you.
So we've had lots of because it's a lot easier to do it through social online.
Yeah.
Just like rip the brand, even rip the content, do that. I don't see it as, I mean, you get to the point, I get why you would see it as a compliment now and go like, this is great, it builds up. From our perspective, I don't think it does us any favours. It just, do you know what I mean? Because it's at such scale in video as well, in a place where actually the brand isn't as strong as what Grenades is when it's in store and with product, etc. like that. So it's, but we can get away with it. They're easy to shut down online. That's probably the easier thing for us to do. Is once you go to the platform direct, they get rid pretty quickly. So that's handy. Yeah, we've had a few in the past with On The Tools, but I think it's less impactful though. I think people probably generate revenue from doing what they do with you. They don't necessarily make money from doing what they would do with us, but it's just frustrating.
Next question that was asked, and you touched on Cadbury's earlier on. Or I'll ask you the question a different way. We don't want to force you to say Carb Killa, okay? Apart from Carb Killa,
you're not leaving if you do.
What's your favorite chocolate bar?
Do you want us to get this one first?
I'm not going to say a Grenade one. Yeah, I'm actually allowed to answer it. Or are you going to double?
No. We're going.
We trust you enough now
We're going to be very heavily edit this to make you sound intelligent and stuff anyway. So so your mouth will be talking and you will be saying Carb Killa. So it's irrelevant what you say.
I'll be honest. I've got two. So and also it depends how they're stored. So Cadbury's standard Cadbury dairy milk in the fridge.
Oh, I knew you were going to say
that's just weird.
I love that. Very good with a cup of tea. Cold, hot, all good. But off the shelf, I would go Yorkie raisin purple bar.
Oh wow!
Oh nice, raisin and biscuit. I like it. That used to be.
I'll tell you honestly. The mainly in like garages and things like that. You don't really find them anywhere else. It's like BP, good for them.
Okay. But have you ever bought a cookie before and you thought it was chocolate chip, but it was actually raisin? You ever had that bad experience?
Yeah, spat it out.
Yeah, horrific experience. Yeah. So
the fact that you willingly bought a massive raisin fan, but that chocolate bar.
Yeah, that's good. It's got a nice chewiness to it.
Yeah, it's real good.
Are you agreeing with that, Al?
I'm gonna. That used to be one of my favourite chocolate bars. I'd go now if I was going to buy something. I love a crunchy.
Oh, crunchy.
I do like a crunchy. I
used to eat a crunchy when I was a kid, like eat all the outside first and leave it.
Definitely, do that. Good. Crunchy. I love a Cadbury's cream egg. Who doesn't have a Cadbury's cream egg as well?
How do you eat yours though?
I'd take the top off.
Yeah.
And then lick all the middle bit out. And then eat the chocolate at the end.
Yeah, it's good going. That is.
Yeah, is that same?
Yeah, it's a good tactic.
I think that's the only one.
Yeah.
If anyone disagrees with that, then you're wrong. And I like peanut M&Ms. We probably can't see it in shop, but I do have 40 kilos of M&Ms behind us in
I'm out on that one.
Dispensers. Don't like peanut M&Ms.
Just not.
You're not got a nut allergy, have you?
No, I'm just not a massive fan of the M&M in general.
We did smear nut dust on the chair earlier. So if you feel uncomfortable, then that's. Yeah, it's kicking in.
Yeah, no, I'm all right.
Final question that was asked in, we're getting back to business on this one. What are the most important fundamentals when starting a business, in your opinion?
Oh, Lee, do you want to take this one first? Do you want to think of a sensible answer?
Yeah, you think. I'll give the dumb one.
Just spit out what you were going to say. That could be way better content.
Give me the question again, sorry.
So what are the most important fundamentals?
Memory's one, Lee.
Memory's one, yeah. I've got terrible memory.
It's a tough question. Like
it is tough. I think you've got to.
So many.
There is so many. I think the belief bit is if you don't believe in it and you've got that doubt, it will just get kicked out of you at the end of the day. Well, over the first 6 months, numerous people will have jabs and it'll fall out. So I think the belief bit is massive. I've
thought of a clever one now.
Go on.
Because I think we probably because there's a lot, but I think then passion. If we said one word. Got to have passion for it because if you don't have the passion for it, no one else is going to.
Yeah,
and that's infectious. So I think that has to start your absolute passion for it. Because I think as well, I learned probably years ago that personality goes quite a long way, and I think we've certainly been able to get retailers or suppliers or whatever to do stuff for us they probably shouldn't necessarily have done because we couldn't pay the most or because we weren't the biggest brand or whatever. And we will be now. But I think they've definitely done stuff they shouldn't have done for us just because they liked us.
Okay.
And I think, but but you could make a list of like 20. So there's all the hard work and consistency and dedication and all these attention to detail. There's just loads. And I think but I think probably just passion for something and believing in something is probably a really important fundamental. Because if you're not passionate.
Yeah, because
I don't know what else you've got.
I think you're right because actually, if you list all the other things, there's loads of them that I didn't have or don't have still.
Yeah,
but that doesn't mean it's not succeeding.
Yeah, okay.
Because actually, the main pinpoint.
So what don't you have then? So what's not on the list? I mean, clearly hard work. Consistency,
attention to detail.
Lee, I'm just wondering when the digs are going to be put back towards Al. I'm like, you're taking them all here, and you're just.
He knows I'm bomb-proof.
He's bomb-proof.
Bomb-proof.
Oh, wow.
Bomb-proof.
Who says that?
Oh, there we go. We got a little one there. Who says that?
I just did.
Okay, to round up, it's obviously a question that I have to ask you guys because some of the people listening have an idea and they really want to get it off the ground. They want to get started. Like, what advice do you give them? If you have an idea, like you said, you only have the ability to max out credit cards. What do you say to that person who wants to be doing what you're doing?
quit your job and do it.
Just quit your job and do it.
Yeah.
There you go.
I was going to say exactly the same. I was going to say follow your gut feeling and do it.
If you've got that gut, then what you're either going to not do it and regret it forever, or half-ass do it and then end up getting to a point where you can't continue to do it and then it fails anyway. Like the only way to do, there is no magic bullet. There is nothing. The only way that any of these things work is by going both feet in and like bleeding it out.
Commit to it.
And until something happens where you go, actually, I might be able to make a quid there. And then you go, oh, I might be able to make 2 or 3. And then you go, like, there is no other bit to it. I don't think it's not too scientific, really.
No,
throw yourself into it.
But it's so scary though as well.
Massive. Yeah.
So how does a person get over that fear? I think it's probably easy to go, look, this is what we did, but you could have somebody that might not be as ballsy as you guys.
The other bit then is that the only reason people won't be doing that is because they're hanging around with shit people. Because actually, if you've got like. I mean, you can't choose your family.
Guys.
Yeah, you can't choose.
Everyone behind the camera now.
Yeah. You can't choose your family. That's the difficult part. So if your family aren't supportive,
that's the difficult part.
Yeah, because if they're not
family
supportive,
okay?
Get rid of them too. Get rid of all your family and
My
friends.
mum and dad have absolutely smashed it. They were more support. I mean, bearing in mind, I'm living in the house. I'm in serious amounts of debt, and they're the ones going like, I think you should do it.
Yeah,
that's amazing.
That's amazing. Yeah. But if I didn't have that, would I have been so like 2 feet in? Maybe not. Like I've got great friends like that have always been like, just
I've met
go.
some of your friends. I'm not sure. That's
Yeah. But they're all as dumb as me, so they just go, just do it. Just do it.
Yeah.
But
we'll laugh at you because I did so.
If you've got a circle of people that are constantly like, well, actually, you think that's bad, or if you do that, that's going to happen, or that's that negative. Then maybe you won't do it. So you've got to commit to it, like to the point where you don't have anything else in your life for a few years. Like that's the reality of it. And if you've got a load of crap people around you, then change the people you hang around with. Maybe.
Yeah, I really like that. Yeah.
And as well as say, I mean, and the idea of this episode as well is we probably shouldn't have said at the start, but we're going to try and give a bit of an overview to all this stuff because we can get into lots and lots of detail. It'd be really interesting to see what people actually would like us to talk more about. But yes, certainly on that specific question, I guess if you've absolutely got to commit to it, and like I'd say, follow your gut feeling and do it. You'll always regret it. I guess if you're 20, it's different than if you're 70.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you need time to recover if it goes wrong, which it will go wrong. And I think if you know it's going to go wrong and you learn from it, protect the downside, learn and move on. And definitely agree with Lee's point that if you're surrounded by negative friends, just get new friends.
Yeah.
Because you will always find people to say, don't do stuff, don't do this, don't do that. Likewise as well, you also don't want to surround yourself just with people who just want you to kind of plow in naively and blindly on and kind of watch you sort of walk off a cliff and and kind of, because you do sometimes get that. Sometimes people perhaps want you to fail and kind of encourage you into failure. That's a possibility as well, and not in a real malicious way. But I think sometimes people can get a bit jealous if they see you just doing something you really want to do, especially if it's something that they feel they can't do themselves. Maybe that's more of a British thing. It's different in the US. It's different in the US.
It's the same at home as well. I think it's everywhere to an extent. Especially if you're doing something that, like you said, somebody might be afraid to do, but they really want to do, and especially if you succeed in it, But
I think it's that thing, isn't it, as well, the do bit. What is that? So, like, the middle ground for this advice here is, like, quit your job. Well, that's all right if you're young, maybe. But let's say
it's different if you're 50 or you got kids.
Yeah, let's say you're my age. You're 34 and you've got 2 kids. You're married. You've got a mortgage. And actually you hate what you do, but you've got this amazing idea that you've been thinking of for the last 2 years. Well, if you can't quit your job because of what that's in, then the next bit is you've still got to go 2 feet in. You've still got to stay up till 2 o'clock in the morning when you're home from work. You've still got to do that for a year until you can find out how you can then make the switch. The bit that people don't do is they go, well, I can't quit my job, so then I can't start it. But that's bullshit.
That's really sad, though.
You can do it.
More
you
than
can.
being
It's just that you've got to
sad. It's like for them to think that, especially if they do have a good idea.
I think one thing I will say as well is there's no good time to start a business. So generally, there's been, I guess, take it down to its really basic level. Either the timing is right or it's not. If it's not right, you've got to make it right. If it is right, everyone else is probably doing it. So you never neither's good.
Yeah.
For us, certainly, we were the first people to do it, so we kind of made it a thing. Everyone else now is following a fairly well-trodden path. Mm-hmm. And certainly our original investors in the business back in 2014 didn't want us to do the protein bar idea because it wasn't a thing. You've got to try and make it good timing because there's just never a good time to start a business. So you have to just go for it or someone else will.
Mm-hmm. And to wrap up, what's in store for you guys in the future for Grenade and yourself, Lee? What
you want to go?
Yeah, no, you carry on.
Whatever you can tell us.
As is the move to electric house. So we're currently on the acquisition path of and growth path of more communities to sit under electric house. So.
And I think from my perspective, watching you grow as well and the brand and your team, it's really nice to actually see this happening and you're learning and evolving and creating something from scratch, and then that's really exciting to see. So it's nice to meet these founders and you can actually get excited about their brands and their personalities and their stories as they do. So that's gonna be really exciting to watch.
That's the nicest thing he's ever said to me.
I feel
like crying. I've heard him say to you all day.
We'll edit that out.
Yeah.
I think then, and from my perspective, I guess it sounds a bit crap, but more of the same. I think we're 10 years old next year. I say this a lot, but I feel we're just getting started. Mm-hmm. So we're learning all the time. There's more great NPD coming out next year. Certainly, we think we can still double the size of the business in the UK and beyond. We're in broadly 80 countries, so certainly the US, Middle East, loads more traveling, loads more content creation. Really excited to see actually where the podcast goes, to be honest, because it's nice to meet inspirational people. There's two nice things. Inspirational people.
Checking himself out each time he says it.
Just
you have to say another 9 good things to balance out earlier on.
Yeah. I've still got one Irish accent left as well, so we'll probably wrap up with that. No, because we... all right. Well,
do you know, we can let you do an outro in the Irish accent before I do it, and then I'll do one in my own accent.
We'll do one each.
Okay.
But no, so we're excited in more of the same. But guys, that's probably been a wrap, I think, for the first Pull the Pin podcast. So hopefully you've learned something. It's doubtful if you learned anything at all, but hopefully there's some gems in there. Plenty more to come. So please subscribe. And if the stuff you like, you don't like, please tell us in the comments. And we would like to try and create more stuff that people genuinely want to listen to. So that means not inviting these two back, but there'll be proper guests in future. So I've been Alan Barratt. This is Marty and Lee. Thanks for listening. And if I'll do one more as well. Thanks for listening to the very first Pull the Pin podcast with Marty and Lee and myself, Alan Barratt. I hope you've learned lots of stuff about the supplement industry and about business in general. See you soon. Woohoo!
The woohoo, what?
That was like very Super Mario Brothers.
It's like an Irish version of like Miss Doubtfire. You go into like an old lady.
Well, it's better than bloody Marty's English one he did, where I sounded like a Cockney from the 1920s.
No, I'm not doing it again. No, I'm not opening anything up right now.
That can of worms is staying
firmly
closed.
No way.